Namaste, everyone. Hope everyone is healthy and doing well and is safe. A warm welcome to everybody to the day 4 of the Awake series of live session initiated by Udan, the Motivational Society of Hansraj. Thank you for joining in. First of all, myself, Janvi Rai, the president of the society and your host for the evening. Just a reminder, any questions or queries will be resolved at the end of the session. I request you to drop your questions in the chat box. We hope for your cooperations and patience. It's time to introduce our guest speaker for today, BK Shreya. She has been associated with Brahma Kumaris for over 12 years and is the faculty member of Brahma Kumaris. What's great is that she is a graduate in English literature from our own university, Hansraj College, Delhi University, and a postgraduate in ethics from Annamalai University. We are having a splendid session with BK Shreya on topics spirituality, students, and COVID. She has also been working, she has also worked as a web reporter for NTV from 2009 to 10. As we can see, the stress and anxiety the students face every day, but it wasn't the case years ago. In this pandemic, stress, anxiety has taken a severe form. Sister Shreya has worked at Peace of Mind channel also, so she could help you in dealing with daily stress. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this warm welcome. And it's wonderful to be with all of you this evening. And I understand what you've been saying, that it's the time when not just the people who are working are going through stress and anxiety, but a lot of students are also experiencing stress and anxiety. So it's wonderful to be with all of you. And anything that you wish to ask.
Ma'am, could you pardon, please?
I'm saying it's wonderful to be with all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You are now perfectly clearly visible.
Okay. So I was just saying that, yes, this is the time when not just the people who are in the working place who are experiencing stress and anxiety. Normally we see, people who are in companies or at senior positions would experience stress, but this is the first time when we see students in schools, in colleges, everybody has been experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety. And I think it's also a good opportunity for us to reflect within and, find a purpose in life, make few changes in our life and go ahead. So all I'm saying is the forum is yours. You can ask whatever you wish to ask and we'll see how we can help everybody who's here.
Okay, ma'am. So we have prepared some questions through students through Google Forms. Shall we start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. So the first question is, how do pandemics in general affect the mental health?
The pandemic in general don't affect the mental health. It is just when we don't have the ability to face the situation, we get affected by it. So pandemic was something which was not in our control. There are a lot of situations which come from outside, which come suddenly, and none of us have control over that. But it's how we respond to that. And if you see whether it's in students, whether it's in any fraternity, whether it's medical fraternity, whether it's corporates, the response, the way people have responded to it is not same. There are some people who have experienced extreme form of anxiety and even have gone into depression. In fact, WHO just said that now, according to the latest research, every 1 in 4 people are going through depression. So that's where we have reached, and there's so many conflicts in homes, there's so many divorces that is happening. But what I'm trying to say is that it's just not just pandemic definitely is a stimulant, but again, how well was I ready or prepared to deal something which came from outside, which was an external stimulant. So if I was emotionally very weak, it took a toll on me. But if I was emotionally strong, I accepted it. I accepted the situation and I asked myself, what is the next right move? I did not go complaining and blaming and waiting, but I accepted the situation, what was not in my control, because we have to understand that there are some things which are in our control and there are some things which are not in our control. So it's best to think about what's in our control and accept what is not in our control. So those who could accept that could move forward.
Thank you for answering that, ma'am. How can I monitor my mental health?
You have to be very vigilant in the sense, whenever you sit in silence, check what are you experiencing, what are the kind of feelings are there. See, if you're mentally strong, you will be experiencing a lot of joy and peace and happiness. But if you're experiencing a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, you are not able to sleep properly, there's a lot of insecurity, there's low self-worth, you are easily affected by what people say. So if this is this is what you experience, then it's time to kind of spend more time with you, looking for some spiritual practices to elevate yourself. In the sense, in the physical body, if you are experiencing pain, even if it's little bit of pain, you know that pain is not natural. So pain is that messenger which comes in. That's what tells you that you are not mentally okay and you need to do something about it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the next question is, what's the healthy in the situation and what's concerning?
What's healthy in this? Which situation you're talking about? The pandemic or
The pandemic situation.
what is? Could you repeat the question?
Healthy, what means what doing things is healthy in this situation and what is concerning?
Kind of explain it a little bit more to me. Healthy in the sense of physical, you're talking.
In both ways, ma'am, physically and mentally, what doing thing would be healthy for a person and what would be concern? Guys, wait a minute, ma'am would be reconnected. Yes, ma'am. I think there is some connection problem. We aren't able to hear you now. Glitching voice is coming out.
No, it's your internet connection which is showing has low bandwidth. And that is the reason the meeting is getting disconnected time and again.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, we should proceed with the question, I guess.
Your voice is breaking. I can't hear you.
Ma'am, I think we should proceed with the question.
Yes. So what's concerning is, where we every time read about that, we should not panic about it. We need to take all the precautions and we need to keep this in mind that we don't need to panic. And panic is at a very mental level when we start thinking what will happen, What if I get it? What if somebody in my family gets it? What will happen to my career? So these kind of waste thoughts make me emotionally weak. So of course I have to take care of my health, but at the same time I have to take care of my emotional health also. When I don't take care of my emotional health and I get spiraling into negative thoughts, then there are high chances that I can get into anxiety and panic attacks and depression. So time and again, even in the advertisements and news, they kept saying, take precautions, but
Uh, Abhinandan, is ma'am visible to you?
Yes, ma'am is visible to me, but she's not audible.
And what about Manish?
No, no, ma'am is not visible to me. I cannot see ma'am.
I think you are experiencing any kind of network problem.
it's your internet connection, Janvi. It has to be very strong for us to have a Zoom meeting.
Actually, ma'am, yeah. So we shall move with the further questions, I think.
Okay.
It's a question from one of the students of our college. How can I cope up with the stress and anxiety I'm experiencing because of the pandemic?
Like we talked about it, see, when we're talking about stress and anxiety, even when you talk about stress in science, it's always about stress equals to pressure upon resilience. That's the formula. Stress equals to pressure upon resilience. But right now, what's happening is for us, it is stress equals to pressure. So, pressure is the pandemic, of course, but at the same time, we have to increase the denominator, which is the resilience. And by resilience, I mean inner power to cope with the pandemic. So I need to increase that inner power. And I think pandemic is a good opportunity for all of us to kind of see where our inner power is. And so whether we go in for some spiritual practices, whether we read good books, whether we connect to somebody who is in a more elevated consciousness, and we need to kind of accept the pandemic and not let it influence us. I mean, this is something which is not in our control, and things are going to get normal. Now, there'll be a time when everything external will be normal. And if I am not normal, then even when there is an opportunity, I will not be prepared for that opportunity. So I may lose a work opportunity or I may lose any opportunity. So preparation is nothing. You need some spiritual practice, you need some meditation practice, and by meditation, what I mean is where you know how to take care of your mind, because this mind is thinking all the time. There are about 40 thoughts in 1 minute, and every thought that you create has to be a conscious thought. Every thought has to be elevated. So I need to connect to some meditation practice where I know how to control my mind. That will help me deal with the anxiety.
There's one more question from that student. I feel anxious about catching the virus and transmitting it to the loved one. What can I do?
They're very on the similar lines, but again, it's the whole fear is the mental thing, it's the mental thing. So, like we said before, take precautions, but fear is something which I am creating. So, I am taking all the precautions. For example, I move out because of some college work or something, and then I have to come back home. So, I am taking all the precautions, like I will sanitize my hand, I will wear mask, double mask. We're all going in for vaccination now. But what is fear? Fear is something that I'm creating here. It's not outside, it's here. And the fear is, the thoughts like, what if, and, all of us can do this a lot. It could be a very mental chatter that could go on like, what if I transmit it to my parents? What if I transmit it to my friends, my family? But just thinking negatively is going to create a lot of fear. So shift from fear to precaution. That's what we've been talking. Fear to precaution. So the inner conversation then that you have with yourself is, no, I have taken all the precautions. Nothing will happen to my family. And then the worst, even if something happens, we'll take the next step and we'll do what needs to be done. Because what is fear doing? It is reducing your efficiency. That's what fear does. It paralyzes you. So you can't think properly. You can't make right decisions. You lose your creative power. It starts affecting your relationships. The negative energy starts transmitting to your body. You start having some physical diseases. But you can never say that I am experiencing fear
नाम से
because of
नहीं
the
आते मुझे
situation.
फोटो दिखाओ तब जानेंगे
You'll have to mute other participants.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, sure. Yes.
So the fear is something which is very, very self-created. We are creating it, and it's the mental chatter which is creating it. So if I choose, I tell myself, I am not going to create any fear, but I'm going to take all the precautions. Everything is going to be okay. And even if something happens, we'll see how to deal with it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, moving on to next question. How do I balance washing my hands enough and not becoming obsessive about it?
Again, it has to do with your mind. I mean, it's something which in the medical term, they call it OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Where your mind goes on saying that if I don't wash my hands again, something bad might happen. It's something which is compulsive. You feel if I don't do this, then something wrong will happen. Again, if we have to wash hands, but if you feel like you have to overdo it, it's a sign that you're emotionally weak. It's a sign that you're not the master of your mind. And it's basically a sign where your mind is controlling you. Instead of you controlling your mind, if I am the master of my mind, but then it's the mind that starts controlling my actions. And it's just a sign where you're emotionally weak. Of course, even if you go to a doctor, they will prescribe medicines, but trust me, there isn't a kind of solution in this case with medicines. It is only when you empower yourself and you talk to yourself and you do that self-talk and tell yourself nothing is going to happen. I'm going to only wash it the number of times it is necessary, and I will not do it more than that, and nothing will happen wrong. It's like a lot of self-talk and that we have to do. I think one of the reason all this is happening is because we're feeding ourselves with a lot of information which is creating fear and panic and anxiety. What we see, read from the external sources, the social media and the news and everything tends to influence us a lot. And that tends to create a lot of fear. So I suggest that we kind of reduce that information a bit and focus more on something that we are more interested in, passions, could be studying, could be some hobby. We need to divert our mind into something more productive.
Okay, ma'am. So next question is, what if I'm already living with an anxiety disorder? Media coverage can be especially triggering. How can I cope up the best?
Media is there to keep us informed. Now, how much media I am consuming is my choice. So, it's like you go to a party and there is a buffet and there's a lot of food there in the buffet. So there could be somebody who says, okay, it is free, let me eat everything. That could be one approach. And the other approach is, I choose what I am going to eat because at the end of the day, it is my body and it is my health. So even though there is a lot of food, it is my choice what I want to consume. If you see an athlete or a sports person, you will always see that they're very careful about eating. They will choose what is good for their health. So media, of course, is a 24/7 channel, and they are just going to show everything, and sometimes it's not that big, but they have to run a channel. It's something that they're there to earn profit. So they're just doing their work. Now it is my choice how much media I want to consume. That is my choice. Now, what I want to eat is my choice. So you can't blame them because if media was not giving us information. See, there have been pandemics before, but more people have died because they didn't know what to do. Media has given us a lot of information at every level, at the level of precautions, at the level of, you know, where we can contribute, what are our responsibilities. So, in a way, media has been helpful. But because we've consumed too much media and we were not mentally strong, it has affected us because what you read, what you see, what you listen is what you start thinking. So, what I suggest is that each one has to decide for themselves how much media you want to consume. It has been my experience that when people were consuming media, you saw several kind of responses. One, people who were watching a lot of news were experiencing a lot of fear. Two, there were people who were just sitting at their home and had a lot of anger at the government, anger at the politicians. They just felt everybody was not doing sufficient. They didn't realize that it was something nobody was ready for and everybody was doing their best. Doctors and ministers, and actually everybody was doing their best. It's like if you have the hospitals were made for 10 patients, and then suddenly if 100 come, they were not prepared for that, and still everybody kind of tried to contribute in the best possible manner. But there were people who were creating fear, there were people who were creating anger, there were people who were very insecure. A lot of insecurity, that what if I lose my job, what if I lose whatever, their insecurity about the future. But there were also another set of people who saw the news about pandemic and they felt a lot of compassion. They felt I need to help. They felt in what way I can help. So we had students and we had a lot of people, offering food, offering free tickets to the migrants. There was oxygen langar by the gurudwaras. So it was wonderful, where we saw compassion, but at the same time we saw fear, anger, insecurity. So again, same media, same news, but different feelings. It depends totally on you, what kind of person you are. You can become a better person by consuming that media, or it can damage you. So what I suggest is that you see your mental level. If you think that, for example, if I am unwell, then doctor will tell me you just go for khichdi. They will say, okay, you're not well, you eat fruits. And then when I develop strength, they say, okay, you can eat anything. So you have to see for yourself. If you feel mentally weak, I suggest don't watch news at all. Just don't watch news at all. Whatever you need to know will come to you. But if you think it is not influencing you, then also I suggest 20 minutes in the morning. Actually, not in the morning, 20 minutes somewhere in the afternoon, just to keep you informed is sufficient. You don't need to consume it more than that.
For answering that as well. Now we'll be moving some next dinner questions. So, first question is, what is the value of suffering?
Suffering, I don't see any value in suffering. I think you suffer because you can't cope with the situation. In the sense, suffering is more at the level of mental. See, there is this beautiful quote where they say, pain is compulsory, but suffering is optional. I don't know who has said that, but it's a very beautiful line which they say pain is compulsory, but suffering is optional. And what they meant was, if you have a disease or something, they meant physical pain. So you can't avoid physical pain. Of course, you have a disease, but then suffering is more at an emotional level. Suffering is something that you create. For you, suffering could be like, what will be my future be? Will I get a good job? Will I be paid enough? Will I settle down? What if I don't settle? So this is suffering. Suffering is something that you choose. I think you plan for yourself, you work hard, you keep some space for failures because they happen. Don't be afraid of them. Failures are just, a different outcome than the one you expected. That's all the failure is. It and you learn a lot in a valley, in the sense, if things don't go well for you, there's a hurdle or there's a failure, it always adds to your experience. It always makes you a better person. It always gives you an opportunity to elevate your consciousness. What I believe is that even the most challenging situation is a lesson in disguise. That's the mantra I live with, that even the most challenging situation is a lesson in disguise. So you have to learn out of it and move forward. And I think that's all. I think everything else is it's in the mind. So it's you choosing suffering. And you can really enjoy your life. You can enjoy the journey. I know there are a lot of motivational speakers which will say no pain. If you don't have pain, there will be no gain. I don't believe in that. I think it's important. Only this moment is real. Only this moment is real, and you can choose to be happy, or you can choose to be in anxiety. It's your choice. Yeah, you travel the road with a lot of joy, or you travel with a lot of heavy baggage. Is your choice. Yeah.
It was something really beautiful, ma'am, you told. Uh, our next question is, ma'am, why does a person waste time?
Why do the you should tell me that. I don't have much experience in that area. Um, why do people waste time? I think one of the reasons that people might waste time is because they're not enjoying what they do. When you're not enjoying what you do, then the time feels very long, and then you look for means to kind of divert your mind in doing something where you don't have to think about the current thing. For example, if you have joined a particular course which you don't enjoy, so you would waste your time not putting effort in that, not studying, and then you would want to do something where you don't have to think about it. So it could be binge watching a series or an episode. That's something where people waste a lot of time. um, Even when I was in college, we didn't have this opportunity. So if we were watching something, then we would have to wait for an episode which would come next week, and then it was a time where a next episode would come the next day. But now it's not like that. So if you want to watch something, you can watch through the night. Through the night, you can watch a complete web series or something. So we waste a lot of time, because what happens is, especially with when you're watching something, we get completely involved in that. So when we get completely involved in that, then we're thinking and feeling what they want us to feel. That's how the entertainment sector is made. So when you're watching a movie, you're thinking and feeling what they want you to feel. So if they want you to cry, you're crying. If they want you to smile, you're smiling. If they want you to experience fear, you're experiencing fear. So they have complete control over your emotions, and you have no control over yourself. And we don't watch television as a detached observer. We're completely attached in that. And then what happens, for some time we feel good because we don't have to listen to what's going on in our mind. So it makes us feel good because we kind of escape from a reality. It's actually escaping from the reality. So for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 10 hours, when you're watching television or you're with friends, you are not connected to yourself. So it's more like diverting yourself or escaping from a reality because you're not enjoying your reality. Maybe you don't have a purpose. Maybe you don't have that drive. So what I feel is two things here. One, I think a lot of people feel that you should find your passion and you should do what you like. Yes, if you can find your passion and if you can find something that you really like, nothing like it. But I've also realized over a period of time, after meeting so many people over these years, that it's not always possible to do what you like. In this pandemic, I have met children who, because of their circumstances, and they're just 15 years old and 17 years old, there's this child who is just 12 years old, and because of the circumstances, because pandemic took away their father, they have to now drop from the school and have to start working. So there's this child who's 15 years old and has to drop from the school, and he started selling tea to, in the morning, whoever people when they open their shops and workers. So he goes around selling tea because his father has died. So it is my experience that it's not always possible to kind of, look for your passion and do what you like. Sometimes circumstances also force you to do something which you were not ready for or which you never thought you would have to do. So it's more important then, I feel, to not always do something that makes you happy, but to do everything happily. There's a huge difference. One is when I do something, I feel happy. And the other is I am happy, and whatever I have to do, I will do it with happiness. So it could be cooking a meal, cleaning the house, studying, selling tea. It could be anything because I have to do that. I don't have a choice. So I choose to do it with happiness and not for happiness. And when I make that, it's about living your life from inside out, not living your life from outside in, not letting outside influence you, but letting your inside affect everything that you do. But again, it needs an elevated consciousness. And that is why no matter what age you are, you need to have some spiritual practice in your life which sustains you. And that is something that, can help you in whatever circumstances you are in life. Then you will not waste time. Wasting time is not a good thing because I tell you, there's always a time for everything. It's like when you sow a seed, you can't sow it any time of the year. You can't. There's a particular time when you sow a seed. And only when you sow a seed in that time do you get a tree filled with fruits. If you don't sow it in that time, you will not get fruits. There's a time for everything. There's a time which is meant for your college, and it's time for of course, when we say there's no time, we can do anything at any time. Yes, but then again, the physical capacities, the mental capacities are at a higher level at a particular time. So you should never miss that time and make most of it. Make most of at least your capacities.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for gracing us with your valuable insights and knowledge. Now we have few questions in our chat box, which we would like you to enlighten us with.
If you want, you can unmute the participants and they can also talk to us. Whatever you're comfortable.
I will be reading their questions. Actually. So the first question is from Satish Kumar. Hello, ma'am. For quite some time, most of us have lived our lives caged in our homes with very less real interaction with the people. Now, once I get out to the real meeting with people, I feel kind of anxiety talking. How to deal with it?
Yes, we are social beings, and being with people and interacting with them has always been very important for us. And it also helps us grow because, when you are with people, you become more tolerant and more adjusting because they're different. No? So when you come with different people, they're going to be different opinions. and somewhere you have to let go, somewhere they let go. So your tolerance, your power to adjust, everything increases. You become a better person. And when you don't come in those social interactions and you're just with yourself, then of course you're still growing, but being with people is always good. Now, like we said, we were caged in our home for a reason, and that reason was a very valid reason. There was no other way. So we had to be all caged in our home in the lockdown. So it's okay. Accept that. Now just accept that. Now, when you're going and meeting people, don't blame because you've been inside for so long. That's creating I don't remember the word he said. Is he feeling uncomfortable talking to people? It's, I think when you're feeling uncomfortable talking to people, it could be a lot to do with your self-worth. You know, it's very important to feel comfortable in your skin. And then when you see other people, no matter what they have acquired in life, never feel inferior or superior to somebody, and don't see anybody inferior or superior. That's something that I feel. A lot of time what happens, why we feel uncomfortable, because I may look at somebody and I may see all the labels they've acquired, and I may say, oh, they speak so well, they are so pretty, they have acquired so much, and suddenly that starts affecting my self-respect, and I think I'm not so good. I don't think I can make a conversation. That's not the approach of life. The one thing is, okay, this has been my journey and this is what I have acquired in life. This is their journey. This is what they have acquired in their life. But above what we have acquired, we are pretty much same. So what you want in life and what I want in life is not different. So if you want peace and happiness and appreciation and acceptance and respect and love, that is what everybody wants in the world. No matter at an external level what we have acquired, that's separate. I can have different degrees and my position and the money could be separate. But at a deeper level, we are same. So anybody who's acquired a lot also wants love, respect, acceptance. So when you're coming in contact with somebody, just be in that self-respect that I am unique, I am special, I am complete. You need that self-acceptance. You need to accept yourself. A lot of us are not accepting ourselves and a little critical about ourselves, a little abusive. Sometimes you'll be like, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't have this quality. I don't have this speciality. They are so good. They are so pretty. They is something like that. It's self-abuse. What if somebody goes saying this to you? Your self-respect will crash. A lot of time people are not saying this to us, but we are saying this to us. I'm no good. Just imagine if you tell yourself every day that I'm no good, I'm no good, you will actually become no good. What you think is something what you will become. If you keep thinking that, that will become your world. So you have to keep telling yourself, I am unique, I am special. And when you talk well with yourself, your self-respect increases. So if you're able to have a good communication with yourself, a good relationship with yourself, automatically, very easily, you'll be able to have a very good communication with other people. You will see them also unique and special, and a very beautiful vibration will flow from you to them. I have experienced that relationship is not what you speak and how you behave. Basically, relationship is what you think about the other person. So, I could look at you, and probably I could look at Janvi and say, you're wearing a beautiful dress. And then in my mind, I can go on like, what is she wearing? What color is she wearing? And then I could be very nice. Thoughts maybe not very nice. So you will say, though, that relationship will never be a good relationship because they will pick up my vibration before they pick up my words. So when you go and interact with somebody, just don't be hesitant. Think well about them. Think good about them. Don't be critical and judgmental, and just have a normal conversation and you'll do fine. You'll do very fine.
Ma'am, we have a question from Isha. She asks, ma'am, is escaping from reality for the time being okay?
Escaping from reality is never okay, because then you will get used to that. It becomes addictive. And we can use many ways to escape from the reality. One I said could be watching too much television. Other in your age could be alcohol or any form of substance. When we are using substance, what happens is, once also, if I start escaping from my reality and start using a substance which starts making me feel good, because all this alcohol and everything will have harmful effects after some year. Now it'll be like high, and people will tell you, you have no idea what you're missing. It's a complete feeling of bliss, it's ecstasy, because you're not in your consciousness. You're not in your control. Why would you want to be at a point where you are not in your control? You can't think for yourself, and you're losing control even on your sense organs. You're falling all over the place. What do you get from escaping the reality? It's just a very temporary relief. And if you get in a habit of getting temporary relief, then that addiction will pull you, whether it's watching television, whether it's substance use, whether it's spending too much time with people. See, that balance is also to be there. Sometimes if you're spending too much time with people also, then also we're not spending any time with ourselves. So I meet some people who say, no, I'm very comfortable when I'm with the people, I'm talking to them, I'm listening to them. No, you have to be very comfortable in solitude also. So if you're not comfortable being with yourself, what are you trying to say? That whose company I don't enjoy? Just ask yourself, if I don't enjoy solitude, if I don't like being with myself, then in a way I'm saying I don't enjoy my own company. And if I don't enjoy my own company, then who will enjoy my company? People will also not enjoy my company. So I really don't think that one should escape reality. What I think is, whatever the reality is, accept it. Change what you can, and whatever you can't change, accept and ask yourself, what is the next right move? That should be our way. What you can't change, accept. By accepting, I does not mean it is right. By accepting, I just mean because I can't change it. Um, for example, I am just diagnosed with a disease. I can't do anything about it. So I have to accept. And then I ask myself, what is the next right move? So I tell myself, okay, I have to go through the treatment, but let me do it with joy. Let me not complain about it. Let me not, um, you know, let my faith not shake in God. Let me enjoy this journey, and maybe something good will come out of it. So, what you can't change, you accept the reality and you ask yourself, what is the next right move? And then you fill yourself with that strength and the power to take that next move, and you move in that journey with happiness and joy, not dragging your feet. That's the choice we have to make. We are not going to drag our feet in this journey. We're going to move ahead with joy and enthusiasm and zeal.
Next question is from Abhinandan.
Yeah.
How to get rid of contradicting thoughts?
Good one. How to get rid of contradicting thoughts. Now, see, this mind thinks. Okay. So, let me give you an example. The contradicting thoughts could be, for example, you go to a party and there could be two thoughts in your mind. The first thought would be, let me try alcohol. Everybody's trying alcohol. And the second thought would be, no, no, no. What if I get addicted to it? And the first, then it's like two lawyers which are fighting. They're contradicting thoughts. So then again, the one lawyer says, no, it's an age of experimentation. Trying once, nothing will happen. I want to try. And then this another lawyer will say, no, what if I get addicted? What if I want to do it again? Let me not do it. So it's like two lawyers fighting, and that's the contradiction. That's two contradicting thoughts happening. This is what mind does. But lawyers fight, but they don't take the decision. The decision is taken by the judge. Now, everything depends on the judge. If the judge is honest and ethical, he will take the proper decision. But if the judge is little corrupt, you know what will happen. Now, here the judge is your intellect. So mind is creating contradicting thoughts, but it's your intellect which is going to decide. Now, if my intellect is weak, then obviously my intellect will give a decision which is not for my good. And if my intellect is powerful, then I will take the right decision, no matter people don't like me, no matter if I don't get approval for it, no matter I get a little bit of rejection for that. But I will have the power to choose what is right and do what is right. But how to make your intellect powerful? Your intellect is nothing. It's what you're consuming from outside. So if you're consuming very elevated information, and that is why I said that at this age, actually from the age of 8, we need to put in 20 minutes at least every day, every morning, where we're consuming very elevated content. Because what you're going to take in is something that you're going to create. It could be a very good book, it could be a good video, something which is purifying your intellect so that you can take a right decision, because it's the intellect which has to take the right decision. And if I keep consuming a lot of news which is filled with fear, which is filled with anxiety, if I keep consuming a lot of entertainment movies and stuff which, where it's all about revenge and hatred and pulling down somebody and comparison and competition, so my intellect starts working at that level. I need to purify my intellect. I need to uh, take in spiritual knowledge, some spiritual practice. Then my intellect is like a mother, my mind is like a child. So this mother will very, kindly and politely teach the mind that even though they are contradicting thoughts, you have to choose this because this is for your benefit.
Thank you for answering that, ma'am. We have one more question, ma'am. Would you like to take more question, or should I stop here?
No, we can go ahead till 7.
Okay, ma'am. So next question is from Manish. What is that prevents people from living to their full potential?
What is that prevents people from living to their full potential? Many things. One could be, like you said, wasting time, procrastinating things. The second thing could be laziness. You just you're just lazy. You have a lot of potential. I think to reach to your full potential, you need a lot of discipline in your life, a lot of willpower in your life. Another thing which could be the reason which doesn't allow you to reach to your full potential could be fear of failure. I've seen a lot of people who are filled with a lot of enthusiasm when they begin their journey. But because lately, I'll tell you this is a story. Maybe you'll pick up something from it. So these parents brought this child who was very intelligent and from IIT. He passed out IIT, and it was his dream to just get a job with the Samsung company. But everybody felt that he will do well because very intelligent, intellectually very strong, and worked very hard, did everything that he could do. So he didn't leave any stone unturned. Like he made best, and everybody also felt that he will get through. So he sat for the. This is a year ago. The story that I'm sharing, not this year, last year. So he sat for the interview, and it went well. But he was in the first waiting. That was also okay. Everybody thought, okay, just first waiting, he will get through. But life sometimes just throws unexpected situations at you. He did not clear. And when he did not clear even that first waiting, he started getting into a little bit, sadness and the early stages of depression. So the parents got really worried. And what happens is when you see your child in a lot of pain and there's a lot of attachment, you also are not able to make right decisions. So the parent thought, I have to do everything to make my child happy. I have to, so they used every possible contact they had. And, when you desire something really badly and your happiness is dependent on that, it can make you unethical. It can make you unethical because you want it so badly. And somewhere the deep belief is that only when I get it, I will be happy. So it starts to make you unethical. So they used connections and contacts and everything. And it didn't, and it still didn't happen. He still didn't get it. And he went into severe depression. And everybody told him that you're so intelligent. If not this company, you could have gotten another company. You were so intelligent. But because he was so attached to what he wanted, and because life didn't turn out that way, he went into depression and he's still recovering. I am not in touch. I don't know how is he now. But what I'm trying to say is that you plan something and you work towards that. But remember this, never get attached to the outcome. Never get attached to the outcome. You do your best, but then you let the outcome be and have the power to accept the outcome, that maybe there is something good for me in this. And this I've always remembered. This was something that was shared by I think in one of the competition success or something. The student sat for an interview in a company, and he had gone through the written test and the group discussion, and now it was time for the interview. And I think you all must have wondered, like me, that what do they find out in an interview which is just 15 minutes? There are high possibility that you may not know the questions that they're going to ask, and it does not mean that you're not intellectually strong. So this boy was sitting there, and they asked him the first question, and he did not know, but he was okay with it. He was kind of, a lot of us would start thinking, oh, I didn't answer, what will happen, I'm just going to lose this job. It starts inside, we start creating fear, but he was okay. And they asked him a second question which he could answer, and the third which he didn't know, and the fourth which he didn't know, and the fifth which he wasn't sure of, but he was still very cool. And then they asked him, they said, do you think you will get the job with this company? And he just smiled very humbly. He said, sir, I don't know whether I will get a job in this company, but I'm sure that if I don't get it in this company, I will definitely get it in some company. So if this door closes for me, I know there's another door which will open for me. That is self-respect. That is having faith in yourself. That if one door closes, another one will open, because, we're not using this to make us lazy, but it is, I have done everything that I could. And still, if things didn't turn out the way I wanted, it is okay. Now let me see what is in store for me now. And if you don't have that approach, then that failure, the first failure, we lose the enthusiasm and we lose the zeal. And that's what stops us from reaching our full potential. And let me tell you, failures happen. They happen. Life does not always turn out the way you want. You can plan. But like I said before also, it teaches you something. You grow with it. So don't be afraid of failures. That's one thing that stops you from reaching your full potential.
Now we have a question from a girl who very seriously needs the answer. She's disturbing me with her messages. So her
Okay.
question is, ma'am, sometimes I feel frustrated due to high pressure of studies. How can I overcome from this?
Studies are there, but the pressure is something that she's putting on herself. So all of us, could be in the same batch, and you see somebody who's so cool and composed, and you see other person who's all the time frustrated and so worried. So if you see, if it's the studies, then 60 people in the class should all be frustrated. No, that's not the case. If the studies are making you frustrated, then all 60 people in that class should be frustrated. That does not happen. The same studies is making somebody frustrated, and the other person is completely okay, calm, and composed. You've seen that thing before an exam. Have you seen, there's somebody who walks in very cool, very composed, and there's somebody who's studying till the last moment and is all flustered and a lot of anxiety and this and that. It's the same exam. Somebody is having a panic attack, somebody is having a headache, something is happening in the stomach, and the other person is, they're not even studying one day before an exam. They were just watching a movie, and they come and they perform well also. It's not that they fail. They come, they write, they do well, and we are like, We look at them and we're like, wow, they're really so cool, like that. But it's because they're emotionally strong. So it's the pressure that you put on yourself that, oh, there is so much to study. How will I finish? How will I complete? What if I don't score that much? What will my family say? A lot of comparisons that we do in our minds. What if they do better? What if I'm not able to get in this college? So that's all that creates the pressure. Otherwise, there is no pressure. There's studies, you study to the best of your capacity. And then the other thing is, what happens very commonly in colleges is comparison. Don't get into that. We're all different. We all have our own capacities. We have to understand our capacity and increase our capacity. We have grown up in a system where comparison is completely accepted. So we have grown up in a system where we come home and somebody will ask us, how much did you get? And for example, you say 80. And they say, what is the highest? And you say 80 is the highest. I only have got the highest. 80 is the highest. But even though your potential was to get 90, nobody cares. Everybody's happy. Your potential was to get 90, but you got 80, but that's the highest. Everybody's fine with that. Nobody has a problem. But then you come back home, your potential is 75. Your capacity is 75, but you've scored 80, which is amazing. But the second question comes, what's the highest? And you say 90. And so why didn't you get 90? Nobody appreciates that you did more than your potential. Your potential was 75. You managed to get 80, but now the highest is 90. So even that getting and reaching to your potential gets diluted because now the expectation is that why didn't you get 90? But I don't think that should be an attitude. That's how we have grown up in the education system. Could be our parents, could be our teachers. We all have our different capacities. So I have to understand my capacity. For example, my capacity is 75. Then my aim should be to reach 80, 85, 90, and I have to put an effort on myself. If I keep looking at other people, the only place where competition is allowed is in the sports. And there also, if you are running, you are in your track and somebody is in the other track, there also if you are running, and if you look behind to see where the other person is, you will create fear, your efficiency will reduce, and your speed will slow down. So even where competition exists and is allowed, they tell you not to look at the other person and just concentrate and run on your own track. That has to be our mantra for life. Your journey, your capacity, your way of doing things, your principles and values. Somebody might be running very fast, but is breaking all the principles and values. On road, somebody maybe driving too fast, but breaking all the signals. We don't want to break all the signals. We don't want to lie. We don't want to cheat. We don't want to hurt other people to move forward, because then you will be number one, but you'll be standing all alone and you'll be very unhappy. So what you want in life, what is your capacity, what is your way of doing things, your principles, your values, and then you move on in your journey. And your aim should only be to improve yourself. So whoever the sister is asking, don't get frustrated, dear. It is just studies. Enjoy your studies, enjoy the journey, and you will do very fine. Don't worry.
I think this would be the last question, ma'am, of this evening. So, ma'am, how it is from Neeru. Ma'am, how to avoid overthinking?
Like I said, mind thinks, and overthinking happens because you have consumed content which is negative. That's what leads to overthinking. And you can only think right. It's like, let me put it differently. See, you're saying you want a healthy mind which thinks right. Is something I think, Nilu, what you want is a healthy mind which thinks right and doesn't overthink. So basically you were saying you want a healthy mind. Now let's get to the body. If you want a healthy body, the doctor will tell you to eat well and to exercise. That's what doctor will tell you. You know, you eat healthy and you exercise and you sleep on time and you will have a healthy body. So it's the food that you eat, which is 80%, and the 20% of exercise, and you sleep well and you get a healthy body. Now, if somebody says, I want to eat junk food and don't even ask me to exercise, I don't like exercising and I don't like healthy food, I like all junk food, but I want a healthy body. Is it possible? No. You can't have a healthy body if you don't eat well and if you don't exercise. Similarly, if you want a healthy mind, a mind which thinks right, a mind which is in our control, a mind which is not creating fear and anxiety, a mind which is not overthinking, if you want a healthy mind, then again you need to consume food and exercise. And food for mind is the information that you take from outside. And exercise is meditation. So if you want your mind not to overthink, you start consuming good information and you start learning meditation. Meditation is consciously creating right thoughts, consciously. And I would suggest that you take help of somebody who's been on this journey of meditation for some time. So it's like an artist take care of their brush, a musician will take care of their instrument, a meditator takes care of their mind. So for example, I have an exam and my mind will be like, what if I fail? So you consciously create a thought, no, I have worked hard, I have studied, I know I'm going to do well. This is transforming your thoughts. You can't stop your thoughts, but you can transform them. So for example, you get up in the morning and the thought, what if I get late? So you tell yourself, no, I am not going to get late. I'm going to quickly dress up, catch this, and I will reach on time. So it is what you are thinking within, and you have a choice. Na? They don't come on their own. They don't come on their own. I am the master of my mind, and I have a choice. I have a choice what to think. So I can get up in the morning and I'll be like, oh my God, another day. I have to study. I have to go to college. Or it could be, oh my God, it's a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day. I want to go to college. There's something new to learn. There's something new to for me to develop and grow. Two different thoughts. So overthinking is something that I'm allowing. Become the master of your mind. Choose your thoughts consciously. Add quality information in your daily routine and start practicing meditation, and gradually your mind will behave according to you. Yes,
Am I?
Jan.
Yes, ma'am. We have been fortunate to have you with us today. Thank you for enlightening us upon with spiritual aspects of life during these hard times. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to Udan Society, to ma'am for sparing time from her busy schedule and gracing the session. I'm glad to witness such a great participation from all the audience for their enthusiastic involvement in the live session. Thank you so much all for gracing the session with your presence. And last request from you and from you, ma'am, and from the audience as well. Kindly switch on your cameras. We would take a selfie or we would take a picture. I would request Abhinandan and Anurag to kindly take a picture. Everyone kindly switch on your cameras.
Thank you, Janvi, for asking such wonderful questions. And I had a wonderful time with all of you. Thank you for all the participants to take out time to work on your emotional health, which is the need of the hour. And it was wonderful interacting with all of you.
We can't imagine we are still having 85 questions in our chat box remaining. So many questions have been burdened upon us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming.
Okay.
Om Shanti, ma'am.
Om Shanti. Should I leave the meeting? Is that okay? You've done with your photos and stuff?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Good wishes to all of you. Good luck. And I'm sure you all will have a wonderful future. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am. So guys, I'm ending the meeting. Thank you everyone for participating and joining.